All right, friends, let's dive into the history of international communication, breaking it down into three major phases since the 20th century. First, early 20th century propaganda. Our journey starts in the early 20th century, a time when the world was grappling with two major wars. These weren't just physical battles, they were battles of ideas too. During this period, Western societies began to harness the power of mass media for government propaganda. It became clear that the media could shape public opinion, and this laid the foundation for the study of international communication. In 1914, a World War I erupted. Scholars witnessed the media's ability to influence the masses. Figures like Lippmann and Laswell delved into how media could serve democratic societies and facilitate large-scale social mobilization. Lippmann argued that propaganda had become a regular tool for contemporary mass governments. He believed that with the rise of mass media, propaganda methods were becoming more sophisticated. He also suggested the need for dedicated agency to control and filter media information. In Propaganda Techniques in World War, Laswell emphasizes that propaganda was an essential to modern warfare as military campaigns and economic broadcasts. He highlighted the role of mass media in creating lasting collective symbols with significant implications. This involved using propaganda as a means for democratic governments to engage with public opinion. The importance of propaganda reached its peak during World War II. Nazi Germany's propaganda machine, for example, was adept at justifying military aggression. They used radio as a powerful propaganda tool to shape public opinion. The United States recognized the significance of propaganda and formed the War and Information Department. Communication scholar Hofland led efforts to understand the psychological barriers affecting persuasion and to develop effective information strategies. Media propaganda was closely tied to a country's overall strategy and diplomacy, reflecting the increasing role of national governments in modern society. Social scientists even work with the government to understand how to manipulate information to influence public opinion. The use of media as a permanent international propaganda tool didn't stop with the end of World War II. The Cold War era saw international shortwave broadcasting become a weapon in the heart of ideological battle between the free world and communist camps. Even today, countries continue to use satellite to promote their national image. This underscores the enduring importance of propaganda for sovereign nations. So there you have it, the first phase of our journey through the history of international communication. Stay tuned as we explore the subsequent phase and the evolving role of communication in shaping the world as we know it today. The second is international communication in the Cold War period, development communication, and cultural imperialism. Let's continue our exploration of the second phase of the history of international communication. We will focus on the Cold War period and two significant theoretical models. The first is development communication. In the aftermath of World War II and up until the 1980s, two pivotal theoretical models emerged in international communication. The first one, development communication, was prominent during the 1950s and 60s. This model advocated that the Western modernization experience could serve as a blueprint for emerging nations. It proposed that media could act as a catalyst in the process of modernization, transforming traditional societies into modern ones. A scholar named Lerner argued that modernization not only represented economic development, but also brought about a shift in the social character of the general public, fostering a sense of empathy. According to him, media played a crucial role in nurturing a future-oriented personalities and conveying pathetic ability in a short span of time. In this view, media could break away from traditional values and improve the public media literacy. Lerner believed that mass media act as a powerful organ capable of promoting rapid, large-scale social transformation. He even formulated a simple equation linking industrialization, urbanization, literacy, media use, and participation in economic and political life. Development communication wasn't solely reliant on mass media. It emphasizes the importance of social agents, including technical bureaucracies, local elites, and educational institutions, in driving modernization and social change. This meant that the effectiveness of media in disseminating new knowledge was boosted when local elites assumed roles as opinion leaders who influenced public attitude. The development and dissemination discourse was driven by the goal of improving the standard of living worldwide. International organizations like the World Bank, the United Nations Food Organization, and UNESCO sponsored research projects and supported the development of rural radio media to spread the idea of developmentalism and transform societies. However, it's important to note that during the Cold War, the development discourse was influenced by Western-centric thinking, with Western modernization serving as a universal reference value. This raised two key issues. First, it narrowed the definition of development, focusing primarily on economic development and positioning the modern life of Western capitalist society as the model for all third world countries to follow. Many emerging nations, constrained by limited resources and technology, rushed to establish modern communication media and important foreign film and television products. This, in turn, highlighted the dominance of the media industry by political or commercial forces. Second, development policy was intricately linked to the international power politics of the two major groups, democracy and the Communist Party. The development discourse emerged from the decline of European colonial empires and the rise of the United States after World War II. Consequently, the discourse developed by scholars and technocrats from the First World was a product of the World War and was intervened with the global anti-communist actions led by the United States. In contrast to development communication, the second model, cultural imperialism, emerged in the 1960s. This discourse critiques how Western transnational media undermined the right to national self-determination and cultural autonomy of the third world countries. It became a lens through which to examine how the Western world exploited the labor markets and the natural resources of third world nations. American scholar Schiller, in his 1969 work, Mass Communication and the American Empire, argued that the American communication industry, backed by government support, opened up film and television markets in various countries. This not only eroded the cultural sovereignty of these nations, but also facilitated the United States' ascent to global economy hegemony after World War II. In the 1970s, Schiller, influenced by Wallerstein's world system theory, began observing the role of media in the capitalist world system. Wallerstein's theory divided the world into core, semi-peripheral, and peripheral regions based on market expansion. Core countries in Europe and America formed economic dependence relationship with peripheral regions, which they viewed as sources of cheap materials and labor. This gave rise to a cultural exchange, with information predominantly flowing from the core to the periphery. Schiller argued that cultural imperialism differed from past imperialism, as it wasn't necessarily resisted by third world rulers eager to integrate into the global capitalist economy. These rulers often adopted core countries' values and facilitated the spread of cultural commodity and ideologies from the West. Schiller defined cultural imperialism as a process whereby societies were absorbed into the modern world system, their social institutions aligned with the dominant values and structures of core values and countries. However, it's worth noting that Schiller's argument faced criticism. Some argue that the export-import of cultural products shouldn't be used as the sole criterion to determine cultural domination by the United States, and the potential of developing countries to develop their film and television culture shouldn't be underestimated. Others criticized the dominant tone of cultural imperialism, emphasizing that cultural imperialism discussions often oversimplified complex cultural issues by focusing solely on the sovereignty of individual nations. This criticism stressed that the need to consider the plurality of cultural identity within a nation, as national culture was just one of many ways through which people experience cultural belongings. So there you have it, a closer look at development communication and cultural imperialism during the Cold War period. These theories played a significant role in shaping international communication politics and the global landscape. Stay tuned for more insights into the history of international communication. Let's dive into the third phase of international communication in the post-Cold War period. characterized by the overarching theme of globalization. In 1989, a significant event marked the end of the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall. With this momentous event, the capitalist market system emerged as the primary force, driving the integration of various social networks across regions. Simultaneously, the digital convergence-driven cross-media integration, spanning from satellite TV into the 1990s, provided people in different regions with increasing diverse means of connecting with different cultures. These transformative changes ignited the imagination of a new world. The term globalization encapsulates this imaginative shift. Some scholars argue that when contemplating the current state of the world, we should move beyond the concept of the international community, which views national nations as distinct units, and instead embrace the idea of a highly intricate global society. Since governments have found it increasingly challenging to effectively govern activities across various fields, ranging from domestic to regional and transnational globalization, as an ongoing process, exhibit at least 4 key characteristics. First, cross the national framework. While the world system fundamentally operates through nation-states, the unstoppable tide of globalization poses considerable difficulties and challenges to national regulations in areas such as finance, crime, disease, labor, cultural exchange, and migration. To address these emerging issues, globalization takes the form of cross-national cooperation and actions among civil societies and non-governmental organizations. Examples include organizations like Reporters Without Borders, Greenpeace, and anti-globalization movements. Second, matter-oriented progress. Globalization encompasses not only economic aspects, but also extends to the realms of politics, culture, and social awareness. These facets are interrelated rather than isolated, rendering globalization a multifaceted process. The third is complex dialectic relationship. Globalization is not an interactional process. It entails dialectic interactions among several contradictory relationships. Homogenization refers to the convergence of global cultural content, while specialization involves tailoring content to suit local consumers. This can also give rise to new forms of national identity and ethical conflicts. Centralization and decentralization coexist, with multinational corporations shaping a global landscape while financial dynamics and labor markets maintain an elusive flexibility. Connection describes the network relationship formed by global cities, while separation highlights disparities between urban and rural areas, or wealth disperses within the same countries. Increased imbalance. Although globalization brings forth opportunities, it simultaneously accelerates various imbalance. This imbalance encompasses disparities in economic performance, between countries, urban-rural divides, information accessibility, income inequality, and aspirations for a better life. It underscores the persistence of unequal global political, economic, and cultural structures. What has involved are the dynamics of power relations and their operational characteristics. In a sense, the phase of globalization is marked by its pervasive influence across various facets of society, transcending borders and yielding a complex interplay of forces and imbalance. Understanding this phase is crucial to comprehending the evolving landscape of international communication in the post-Cold War era. Stay tuned for further insights into this phase and its implications.